We do have a brand new Hyundai Elantra N, and I think this is a really cool little tweak of the 2022 model. So what we're going to do in this video is talk about some of this spec and tech of the new Elantra N, and then of course I'm going to compare it to the old one and show you exactly what is new in this design. I've said this so many times before, but I think if you want to have fun as a car designer right now, you want to go to South Korea because they are doing some fantastic things with their Kias, the Hyundais, and so on. They have some very cool designs at the moment, but I think that is actually changing because I feel like car design is slowly, the passion for it is slowly coming back. It was lacking definitely in the early 2000s when everything looked very bland, but it's definitely coming back right now. So let's have a look at this Elantra N here, the 2024 model year, in this article from Car and Driver. So I'm going to link this down in the description if you want to go and check out the full article. Starting at $36,000, I'm going to show you the pricing for the manual and the automatic in just a minute. So after only 3 years, Hyundai's feisty Elantra N Sport Compact gets an update. The 276 horsepower turbocharged 2-liter inline-4 goes unchanged for 2024, which is not a bad thing. It's a fantastic engine. A new 19-inch wheel design, a new front and rear bumper covers with updated headlamps and taillights visually differentiate the 2024 model from the 2023. And we're going to talk about these wheels because I have some things to say about these wheels and the trend that we have going on right now. The aged logo on the hood is now black, and there are two new 19-inch wheel designs. There was also a few changes inside in the way of new seats and a revised steering wheel and shift knob. Very cool. An 8-speed automatic is available, but we're happy to report that a 6-speed manual is also still standard. 0 to 60 takes 4.8 seconds, quarter mile in 13.4 seconds. And look at this design, very, very chiseled in the rear end here with these LED lights. Not much changes in the rear. There are some changes to this bumper design, which we're going to talk about, but the main changes of course happens in the front end. So the fuel economy comes in at 22 city, 31 highway for the manual, and 20 city, 30 highway for the automatic. Not bad considering the performance that you get out of this engine. And one interesting thing here is that you can get it with a sunroof, but only if you choose the automatic transmission. That is a very interesting decision by Hyundai. Why not offer the sunroof with the manual? Not that I care, because I personally don't like sunroofs at all, so I'm totally fine with that. Still a very interesting decision. The Elantra's all-digital dashboard carries over to the N model with a large 10.3-inch digital gauge cluster and a 10.3-inch infotainment screen that is slightly angled towards the driver in a much better way than Mercedes did, for example, with the new GLC, I believe it is, which has this weird, barely angled towards the driver. Now here's the pricing for the automatic. You have it at $35,500, and you have the manual at $33,200 for the manual. You save $2,000 by picking the manual transmission. I think I know that I would definitely do that for this type of vehicle. You don't have all-wheel drive though. This is still front-wheel drive only. So with that said, let's jump in to Photoshop and let's have a look at what's new with this design, because it is a very, very cool, I would say maybe less aggressive than the 2022 and the 2023 model that we have. So the previous one, as you can see right here, let's make this red instead of white so you can actually see what it is I'm sketching here. The 2022 and the 2023 model, it had a much bigger grille in the front end that we have in the 2024. And you can also see this upswing of the headlights going up into the side fender right here, creating almost a more angled design in the front end. But I do like what we have going on here, specifically with the white design. We have this piece at the bottom creating some sort of base for the rest of the black graphics to kind of sit on top of. These look half functional. We have some intake right here, but this is all covered up, as you can see. And then we have this grille opening upstairs with the N logo in the grille. So looking at the new one, first thing you notice, maybe not the first thing, but one thing that you notice is that the Hyundai logo is now all blacked out. So they made that part a little more aggressive. However, the first time I saw this Elantra N, it's very interesting because it looks almost, it reminds me a little bit of the Kia K5, and that has to do with this big line that we have going here, this black graphic. You can see that they lowered the headlights, so they almost cut out this reflector light up top. We have the indicator sitting here in the previous one. Now the indicator, I think the indicator, if we go in close here, it's very hard to see where the indicator is. It's not in the grille anymore. It's probably this piece. I would assume that it is this piece because we don't have any bumper headlights. They could have made the headlights right here. Like also one of the biggest trends of the decade right now is to make bumper headlights. They did that in the Sonata, but not here in the Elantra. We still have them right here in a pretty traditional location. But we have the blacked out Hyundai logo, and have a look at the base at the bottom. Very much more chiseled with this section because this fin now sticks in way further up than it did in the 2022 model, and I think that adds something to this design, and it kind of makes the separation between the top half and the lower half more pronounced by having this wing now sticking all the way up into almost the middle of the height of the front end. And it also looks like we do have some functionality in the side vents here. You can see that we do have a air duct going through the sides of the fender, so that's good. We have some functionality up here. I do like the hood vents or the hood lines as well. I just wish they had some connection to some graphic feature in the grills themselves and not just crash right in here. As you can see, it crashes boom into this line that is the starting point for the graphics without having any sort of connection. We might say that this line, the plastic line in the grill here, is a connection to that line if we really want to try and find some connection between the two pieces. Now, looking at the side view, I've always been a huge fan of the Elantra side view because this has some very interesting styling to it. We have this arrow in the side, and looking at the side of these two, the 2022 and the 2024, there really isn't a lot of differences here. Yes, we do have new wheels. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But the key line here are these lines. So we have this shoulder line, cuts in, and then goes away a little bit here right over the front, the rear axle. And then what this does is create this movement forward because it feels like an arrow pointing forward carved out of the side of the car, looking very cool. And I also like the chiseledness that we have in both the new one and the old one as well. The greenhouse doesn't look to be changed at all for the 2024 model, which is fine. This is a facelift. It's not a brand new model. However, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to wheels. So we need to talk about these setups here that we have. I definitely 100% prefer the wheels that we have on the 2022 up here compared to these ones down here. You can see that they are both 19 inches, but these, being silver, they look a lot bigger than these black ones. And this is the problem I have with black wheels. I can't see the design. I can't appreciate the spoke design of the wheels when they are black. They just melt in to the black hole that is the wheel well. And it feels like when this is then rolling in motion, all it looks like is just a black hole where the wheel is supposed to sit. So that is the reason why I prefer the old wheels up here. I also think they look nicer, but other than that, is a very clean design. You can see that there is not a lot of changes looking at it from a side view. We still have this arrow shape going forward here. We still have the chamfer in the back. However, the new piece down here is the diffuser, which is now a lot more pronounced in the 2024 model. I also like that this red piece that we have right here in the side and in the front didn't come back in the rear end of the 2022 model, but now it does. So they did create a connection, so we have it across the entire length of the side view. That's something that never really made sense to me, to have it in the side between the axles and in the front, but nothing in the rear. We do have that now. You can see the red piece down here in the side skirt, red piece in the front end, and now we also have it, thankfully, in the rear end, creating some sort of connection between the lower side and the base for the car, which is this red stripe that we have. Looking at the rear view before we have a look at this new interior, and as I said before, there's not really a lot of changes to the rear end. We still have this I think this is a pretty cheap looking wing up top. I would prefer to basically not have the wing on my Elantra N, because I think this is a very, as I said, it doesn't feel connected to the rest of the design, and it feels low quality. I'm not sure why. It's just the installation and the design of it with all these angles on it doesn't look very good to me. But the rest of the rear end is very chiseled. As you can see, we do have this age symbol in the taillight graphics with this. Yes, we do have a light bar in this case that we also had in the 2022 model. But looking at the bottom of this Elantra, we have this piece being angular or going very high up in the rear end of the previous one. I do like the dual exhaust, very symmetrical, and we also have a nice diffuser. We do have similar styling in the 2024 model. However, this angle, this corner has now been moved to this point. As you can see right here, this angle is not angled this way anymore. Instead, they stretched out the black piece, and I think this looks better than the 2022 model because it feels a little bit more aggressive, and it also removes some of the volume in the rear end that we don't necessarily want to have there. And otherwise, very clean diffuser. You can see the red graphics going around the entire rear end, then coming back on the side and continuing in the side skirt right here. I do love these graphics of the taillights. As I said, it feels like Hyundai are having a lot of fun designing every single little piece of their cars now. The graphics, the surfacing, the proportions, and the line flow. For example, again, this line that we have in the side. Also coming back in the rear end, you can see these cuts that we have in this gorgeous chamfer right here, connecting to the line coming down from the roof and then going in and dipping down into the center of the light bar. Now, last but not least, let's have a look at this interior. I don't really see a lot of changes in this interior, if any. I'm not sure what the new changes are. They said that they have a new steering wheel, but I can't really see what is new between these two. Yes, we do have the logo in the middle now being blacked out, which I think looks a lot better than chrome, specifically on an N model. But the rest of the interior, the 10.3-inch gauge cluster right here, thankfully we do have a housing for it, and we also have an infotainment screen right here that looks decently integrated. And this is what I'm talking about, the angle of this infotainment screen. Yes, it is angled a little bit, but it is angled in a way that makes sense, because the entire dash, as you can see going down here, everything is angled towards the driver just slightly, not like Mercedes did and just kind of tweaked just the screen to sit a little off center, which is extremely annoying, which I talked about in the Mercedes videos I've made on this channel. And look at this, we also have physical buttons still for the climate control. Overall, this is a fantastic driving machine, this Elantra N. I haven't driven it, but I've read so many reviews of it. I want to drive it at some point. It feels like front-wheel drive cars these days, they're almost as good when it comes to handling as all-wheel drive. That didn't used to be the case back in the day, because you had torque steer and you had all kinds of weird things going on when you press it around the corners. But this and the Acura Type S that I reviewed, they drive absolutely fantastic, even though they have a lot of power being sent to only the front wheels.